Hey my friends, today I wanted to just sit down with a warm drink and have a chat really with you about homeschooling, specifically homeschooling philosophies. Where do we stand? What do we lean towards? How are things going, etc. So 2 years ago I shared a video talking about combining the Charlotte Mason method and unschooling. And then last year I shared a video trying to do more Charlotte Mason, the pretty much using Ambleside online / little variations of it. And apparently there's just something about this time of year. I really get my Charlotte Mason itch going. I think it's as the weather starts to warm up, or the idea of the weather starting to warm up, just makes me really excited about the spring, the rest of the school year, next year. And I'm someone that will never be a certain philosophy purist. I'm never going to be completely Charlotte Mason. I'm never going to be completely anything else. Very eclectic. Like to pull different bits from different things. There's even some things of the classical education that interest me. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're drawing from different philosophies, how that's looking, what interests me from different philosophies. And I am going into this with no notes. These are just thoughts that I've been thinking. So I'm viewing this as you and I are sitting down for a chat, and you are so quietly sitting while I verbally vomit. Hopefully not that graphic, but yeah, I just want to share some of the things that I've been thinking about, answer some of the questions that I've been getting on some of my older videos, specifically the Charlotte Mason and unschooling one. I feel like that one, I've been getting a lot of people asking how's this going? Are you still doing this? Any updates? So I thought that's what this video could be. So this last fall, more than any other year, I went the curriculum route. We've never really purchased much for curriculum. This year we did, and we stuck with it for a few months. And like my personality, it just didn't stick. The only curriculum, and it's a very cheap and easy curriculum that we have ever stuck with, is Learn Math Fast. Next month will be a year since we started using it, and that's the longest we've ever stuck with anything, so that's going well. But I personally am drawn to the Charlotte Mason method. There's a lot of things I like about it. I have been reading the actual Charlotte Mason, her book, Home Education. This is volume 1 in her series. I also own volume 6. I can't remember if I've started it or not. Probably not, because it's on that shelf there, and that's my unread books shelf. So I feel like I did read some of it though. I want to finish this and then read that. Previously, prior to this last year, my Charlotte Mason information has mostly come from a Charlotte Mason companion. Is that what it's called? The one by Karen Andriola. I'll leave the links for the books that I'm mentioning down below, because sometimes the names just fly out of my brain. But it's been good to actually get into Charlotte Mason's actual methods. So much has been, people have said is Charlotte Mason-y, and I'm learning isn't really Charlotte Mason-y. So let's talk about her first. I always thought that the idea of morning time or circle time or whatever you want to call it, morning basket, I always thought that was a Charlotte Mason thing. And I was recently listening to A Delectable Education. I think it was on their podcast. I'll see if I can leave the specific podcast linked below. I'm not sure which one it was. But the people that have the podcast, whoever they are, I don't even remember, they were saying how that's not really a Charlotte Mason thing. And I was like, really? I just always thought it was. Because all these, what I thought were Charlotte Mason homeschoolers were doing it. Therefore, I chalked it up to that being a Charlotte Mason thing. So that was one of the things I always kind of drew me to Charlotte Mason. But now that we are in a stage where a together time just doesn't really work, I hashed that out in a couple of different videos already, so I won't get more into it. Just with ages of kids and the different work loads that they have and stuff, it just doesn't really work, and it felt like I was failing. But when I was listening to that podcast, I was like, oh, that lifts a load off of me. I love the idea of coming together and doing some subjects together, but because that's just not where we're at right now, it makes me feel better that I don't have to worry about like failing that as it was. So that was one thing I thought was Charlotte Mason-y. Charlotte Mason was very big on like nature study and time outdoors. In the winter, this is something I feel like a failure at, because for the last couple weeks we've had -30 weather, and you know, they have, whoever wrote the book, There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather, and even like Charlotte Mason, they talk about going out no matter the weather. Sometimes I don't think that these people really understand how cold it gets other places, and it makes me feel guilty, but I've decided that I'm giving up on that guilt. We will enjoy the weather when it is not -30, but as far as like nature study, not much is happening outdoors in nature at that time. Even most of the animals and different things are, you know, hibernating or hiding out, waiting it out. So I do like her nature study stuff. I just have to get over the fact that from December to February, that's just not something we do. As the season warms up, as the weather warms up, great, then we will do it. But I need to stop making myself feel guilty for things that don't work in certain seasons. So I do love the actual nature study aspect when it's nice enough to go outside. Especially as we get into spring, I love going on daily walks and seeing the things that change each day, like walking the same path every day and then seeing which trees start to get leaves first or start to bud first. And I love that kind of thing. I saw some ducks today actually, and that really weirded me out because that's the first time I've seen ducks in a long time. And today it's finally warming up, but yesterday was -35 with the wind. Were these ducks flying here in that? Do not all ducks migrate? I think they do here. I need to look it up. So yeah, now that things are going to be warming up, we are going to get back into doing a regular nature thing. And I think I've decided that it's just gonna be simple. It's just gonna be us walking out in nature. Previously, I've always tried to get my kids to bring a notebook along or come back and intentionally do some kind of nature journaling type thing. And I just want to relieve that pressure for myself. If we want to, sure. If we want to look things up, great. If we want to draw things or paint things, great. But our homeschool just might not have that like classic Charlotte Mason come home and watercolor all the things we saw feel, as much as I would love for it to. That's just not my natural tendency, so it's hard for me to expect that from my kids. But I would like us just to go out in nature, observe things, notice things, share things with each other, see the changes. It doesn't have to all be documented like in a notebook. Trying to let myself come to grips with that. In my last little dive here with Charlotte Mason, I think maybe it was that same podcast episode of Delectable Education. Delectable, it's really hard to say quickly. Something that I was listening to lately, might have been a different podcast, was talking about Charlotte Mason and her like 15 to 20 minute lessons. And that is something that I have not really done very much of. So last year when we were trying Ambleside, or Ambleside-ish, because I was modifying a lot of things, but a general Ambleside idea. I realized now what was the problem then and every other time that I've tried Ambleside, which has been multiple times because it's Charlotte Mason and it's free, so it's an easy thing to try. So I've tried it multiple times over the years, and every time I get bogged down. And I finally learned this week that it's because on this day you're supposed to read one chapter of this thing or whatever it is. And sometimes that takes a really long time. And sometimes that means I'm spending a lot of time doing things with only one kid, never mind however many other kids to work with. So I had a breakthrough moment this week where I was like, oh, what if you don't have to read X chapters or X pages? What if you just read for 15 minutes or do this thing for 15 minutes? I'm sticking with the 15-minute side of things right now because I've got a couple kids with ADHD and other learning cognitive delays. My oldest, she's kind of doing her own thing, so I'm not including her when I'm talking about this, but we are sticking with 15-minute intervals. We are setting a timer for 15 minutes, and for 15 minutes you read that book, or for 15 minutes we're going to work on math, but we're going to make sure it's like a diligent 15 minutes, not a very distracted 15 minutes. And then, contrary to what I've heard, I do, after the 15 minutes, allow a little bit of break, wiggle room, because we need that a little bit. And then we buckle down for another 15 minutes. This has been a game changer for me. So I am like mentally in the process of figuring out how to create an outline for a school year. I'm thinking right now of listing all the different subjects and like sub-subjects and all the different books and resources we want to use. And, you know, when you're done reading, let's say, my 6th grader, yeah, that's the grade he's in, I'm pretty sure, for his independent reading time right now, I got him started reading A Night Divided, which is a historical fiction book that I really enjoy. So it's independent reading, but it's also history. It's about the night the Berlin Wall went up and then a family that's trapped on either side. Really good. Although he was like, does anyone die? I need to know if anyone dies. And I honestly can't remember, so I didn't know what to tell him. So that's his independent reading. So instead of saying, okay, you're gonna read 2 chapters a day and in 10 days you'll be done and then we'll move on to this book, my thought is, okay, this is your book for that time. You're gonna read for 15 minutes. When you're done that, we'll have like another book queued up. So I want to go into each subject, or like I said, sub-subject for some of them, and make a list of different resources. And so you do these for 15 minutes, and once we've finished that book or that resource or whatever, then in our next time we'll move on to the next one. I'm not sure if that makes sense verbally. It's something I want to write down, and maybe I will share a post over on Substack kind of laying it out. I think it would be really cool to do this for all the grades, kind of set myself up an outline for my kids that are coming up into school, or that are in the younger grades and are going to be going up, writing down some of the resources that I've enjoyed for the different grades. I would totally be willing to share this online with you guys if that's of interest to you, if that's kind of the route I go. So that's what I'm thinking about as far as Charlotte Mason goes. I don't know if I have any other specific Charlotte Mason thoughts, but going into the unschooling / interest-led learning side of things, I'm realizing that for the most part, in the last number of years, when I've said unschooling, really what I mean is interest-led learning. And this can be both my kids' interests and my interests, and just diving into topics of interest for us. And I think this works really well with the Charlotte Mason method. So let's say one of us really enjoys Black Death, because I've had a kid that has really enjoyed Black Death. Then I would put that into our history rotation. So if I have a list of history books we want to read and we're reading through for 15 minutes a day, these could all be on Black Death, for instance. Or if you have a kid that has a specific interest in science, you can have some science resources, or maybe even some videos. You do 15 minutes a day, slowly work your way through the resources. This is kind of how I'm thinking about kind of merging the two, instead of having like a more rigid rotation, like something like Ambleside Online, where if you're in this year, this is what you're studying, but making it a little bit more interest based. I know kids, and even for myself, when you are learning something you are interested in, you are much more likely to retain the information, engage with the information. It's just going to be a better learning experience all around. You're not going to be fighting with a kid if they're actually learning about something of interest to them. So I think that this works really well for fitting into the Charlotte Mason method, that the method that I'm creating based off of these 15-minute lessons. This is easier to do as a homeschool parent than it was for someone like Charlotte Mason. She was a teacher in a school. I have mentioned this in other videos. It still cracks me up that we have this whole homeschool philosophy based off of this person who taught in schools, was not a mother, did not home educate. I mean, she does have a book called Home Education. It just seems a little ironic to me because, you know, we have even if you were an extreme homeschooler, the very fruitful ones, and you have 20 children, that's still smaller than the class sizes in the schools these days, at least the schools here. Now, most people, even if you have 20 children, they're not all in school at the same time. So most of us have a much smaller ratio of 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 4, even 10 is much smaller than the classrooms here. So it's easier for us to tailor our education to each of our children. I'm the kind of person that's really interested in personality types. It's always interested me, both for myself, and I love watching my kids and kind of like pegging them. I like to see what their interests are, what their personalities are like, and I feel like that's very helpful for school, for homeschooling, for being able to gear their education to their interests. So I feel like this is just something that comes very naturally to me. If you are a fellow personality test lover, I will tell you that I am an INFJ, a rebel personality on the 4 tendencies, Enneagram 4, wing 5, I think. I always forget that one. And what else? Oh, Strengths Finder. I'm a maximizer, which works really well for finding the strengths of others and helping them reach their potential. So this all kind of works together. My personality, this kind of all makes sense if you know what I'm talking about. It makes sense that this is how I would structure our homeschool, look at my kids, look at their personalities, get their interests, bring it in. So do I have any other thoughts? I'm pretty sure as soon as I stop filming, I'll be like, oh yeah, I wanted to mention that. Yes, I do have 2 other things, I think. One, I'm kind of been trying to bring back game schooling. I don't remember if I've talked about this or if this was just something I thought about. I'm trying to be more intentional with playing more games with my kids. There's a lot of learning involved with games, either math or cooperation, or there's just lots of different things. So trying to do that. We've always done quite a few games because my husband is very much a gamer. I actually just shared on Substack a list of our 6 favorite cooperative games. So if you're interested, I'll leave that linked below as well. We're trying to bring back game schooling. And then the other thing we have not done, I don't think at all since we've lived here, so it's been at least 9 months, is poetry tea time. This is another thing that is not Charlotte Mason. I think it's Julie Bogart from Brave Writer that originally came up with this idea, if I'm correct. And we tend to do this on Fridays when we're doing it. So I wanted to start it again. I have always said my kids are not really interested in poetry, but I am, so I bribe them to be there with like snacks and hot drinks and stuff like that. Except now my oldest has suddenly gotten into poetry and like songwriting, so I'm excited. Doubtful that she will share anything that she's been writing, but now that she's actually into poetry, I'm excited to do more of this poetry tea time and not necessarily have them read the same poem over and over, which is also fine, but it's just gonna be more fun to have someone that like is excited to be there and not just for the snacks. So we're bringing that back this week, and yeah, I'm just excited for the spring, excited for new life in every aspect in our homeschool, making some revelations, seeing how things kind of click together. And if you guys are interested at all in some kind of a Charlotte Mason-ish outline, like I was talking about, different resources for different grades for different subjects, let me know, because it's percolating at the back of my mind. And so it's something I'm probably going to be working on for ourselves here, so it doesn't take a whole lot more effort to share it. But I think that's all I have for today. If you can relate to being Charlotte Mason-ish, unschooling-ish, interest-led learning-ish, let me know in the comments. How does that look for you guys? Very curious to hear. And we can just chat about all things homeschooling. Thanks for hanging out with me.